The details of what happened to little Christian Ferguson are all coming to light as this trial in Missouri has been progressing. His father is accused in the child's disappearance back in 2003. Will the jury find that it was a murder, or will the jury believe Dawan Ferguson's story that Christian was abducted during a trip to the hospital? The state has rested its case in chief today. Now it is the defense's turn to decide whether or not they wish to present a different narrative to the jury. While we wait for trial to resume, we want to take a listen to some of the most compelling and heartbreaking testimony we've heard in this case. You're going to hear from Santana Contreras, who is the defendant's ex-wife's co-worker. Her testimony was big because she testified that there was a confession Dawan made, confessing to her allegedly that he had killed little Christian before ever making that 911 call, and that little Christian's body was placed in the foundation of a home. Take a listen to this very heartbreaking testimony.
At some point, well, let me ask you this. When you met Monica and Dawan Ferguson, did you at that point make the connection to what had previously been reported on the news as it related to Christian Ferguson?
No.
Okay. Had you heard about the disappearance of Christian Ferguson?
When it first happened.
Okay. And was that from the news or something else?
I think it was the news or word of mouth. It was so long ago, I don't remember.
At some point, did you make the connection between Christian Ferguson and Monica and Dawan Ferguson?
At some point, but it wasn't on my own.
Sorry?
It wasn't on my own, but at some point I did.
And what do you mean by that?
When it was kind of like I didn't know anybody's last name, but as we got to know each other and conversation started, then I kind of knew what the conversation with them was. I kind of put two and two together.
Okay. And at that point, was it just that Christian Ferguson had been reported missing?
No.
Okay, was it something else?
Well, at that time, I didn't know it was Christian Ferguson. I just knew it was a boy.
Okay.
Or a stepson of Monica's.
So you knew a stepson of Monica's was missing?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, did you talk with Monica and or Dawan about Christian?
Yes. Oh, well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was this conversation first with Monica or with Dawan?
Monica.
Can you tell the jury how the conversation with Monica led to talking about Christian?
Basically, she would, make comments. I still didn't know it was Christian. She would make comments about having to give, being responsible for a kid's medicine or whatever the case may be, and she felt that she wasn't responsible for that and that he should be responsible. And it was kind of like a back and forth.
So she felt that she shouldn't be responsible for Christian. It should be
His
Dawan.
dad.
Okay.
Yes.
And at this point, you didn't know it was Christian Ferguson?
No. There was no names mentioned. I didn't know any of Monica's kids.
At some point, did you have a conversation with Monica about Christian receiving his medications?
Well, not specific as medications, but we had a conversation because my son is ill as well.
Okay. And what was that conversation about?
Basically, again, that about the back and forth of her not feeling like that was a duty of hers to administer anything or even to care for his kids, because she felt that it was being put on her and it was his responsibility. And I explained to her that I had a son that had fatal prone asthma and he was on life support and been through the same thing, so kind of the child needs that.
And did you kind of just relate with her about the difficulties of a special needs child?
Yes.
At some point, was there a conversation between you and Monica where Dawan also became involved?
Yes, it was I and Monica first, and Dawan was outside, and he came in.
So Monica was in your apartment first, and then subsequently Dawan also came in?
Yes.
And before Dawan came in, were you and Monica talking about Christian or the household?
Yes.
And when Dawan came in, what was the conversation like then?
He kind of came in. I asked him, did he want something to drink? And I don't know what he and Monica were talking about, but it was kind of like when I came back in the room, like I knew, and they were looking at each other, and that's when I was included.
Were they arguing at all?
No, not arguing, just more or less having a conversation that that there was some type of tension.
And was the conversation between the two of them in regards to Christian?
Yes.
At some point, you indicated that you became a part of that conversation.
Yes.
What happened next?
I was so nervous. It was on Monica. I remember her saying she knows, or whatever the case may be, that she discussed something with me,
And that was directed to Dawan?
yes.
Okay, so Monica told Dawan, she, referencing you, knows.
Yes.
Okay, what happened next?
Like I said, I went in the kitchen to get something to drink, and they were kind of discussing something between each other. And I really can't remember the details of how it began, but that's when he made a statement of how his stepfather was a powerful man, and basically that the boy was deceased before the date that the call was made, and that the body was buried. Well, the stepfather helped. I don't know if he helped, but the body was put in a foundation of a house that had something to do with the stepfather.
So we're going to take a step back and we're going to kind of walk through this a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm nervous.
Okay, that's okay. So you have a conversation with Monica and Dawan. It starts with Christian. At some point, Dawan makes these statements to you. And he began talking about his stepfather.
Yes.
And what exactly did he say about his stepfather?
That he was a man with a white man with a lot of money, and he held a lot of power. It was almost like he was arrogant, like, that I can get away with anything, and that my stepdad will bail me out.
And then he makes reference to Christian, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought I heard you say that Christian was deceased before he made the call?
Yes.
And when you talk about call, what is that in referring to?
The call from the payphone saying that he was missing.
Okay. And then you made reference a moment ago about how Christian was buried in the foundation of some property?
Yes, that had something to do with the stepfather.
That had something to do with the stepfather?
Because he owned, I don't know if he was a landlord or if there were some houses being, constructed, but he had something to do with some houses, and that was...
They never told you the location?
No.
Okay. You just knew it had something to do with foundation, construction, and his stepfather?
Yes.
Ms. Contreras, at any point did Dawan, in this conversation, talk about his ex-wife, Theda?
Yes.
What did he say about her?
I actually didn't know her name because it was never mentioned that her name was never mentioned. It was basically he referenced her in derogatory terms, like everything out of her name, but with her natural born name.
How did you feel after you heard these statements?
Terrified.
And shortly after, well, let me ask you this. Did you ever see Dawan and Monica again after that conversation took place?
No.
Did you go back to working at the Avenue?
No.
After hearing this conversation between Dawan and Monica, did you continue to live in St. Louis?
No.
Did you move out of state?
Yes.
Did you ever call the police about this?
No, I was terrified.
And why were you terrified?
Because people had just admitted to me a heinous act, basically, and I didn't know what they were capable of. If they were capable of that, I was a single mother with a son, and they knew where I lived, so yeah, I was too scared.
How long after you had heard these statements did you move from St. Louis? Was it days, weeks, months?
It was so long ago, but I'm thinking within the next week or so.
And you have changed your name, correct?
Yes.
Was any of the reason for changing your name in relation to Dawan Ferguson?
Yes.
And did you use other reasons to change your name legally, but was that the real reason?
No.
That may have been confusing. What did you use a personal reason to change your name?
I used a personal reason, but that wasn't actually the reason why I changed my name.
And what was the real reason why you changed your name?
Because they knew my name and they had disclosed something to me that I could be found, anywhere. So I wanted to make sure that I got as far away from St. Louis and nobody would know the name Cherie Douglas.
Did you know that Dawan Ferguson was a bounty hunter?
No, I had no clue of his profession or anything. I didn't know anything about him other than speaking to him and what he looked like.
Nothing further.
Big stuff brought out through this witness, Dawan Ferguson being a bounty hunter. Speaking of Dawan Ferguson, we have an update from our field team. We're learning he will not testify in his own defense. That is, of course, his right. It cannot be held against him. All of this has been taking place outside the presence of the jury. The judge engages in a conversation with him, makes sure he understands his rights, how he can choose to do whatever he likes. He's on trial and the state carries the burden, not him. But he has chosen not to testify in this case. So we have a big answer to that question.